I really don't like the idea of most of us living feeling disconnected. Like that has driven my entire career of saying that is not okay. And what I really want is the mission moving us forward to closer relationships. What I want is frientimacy. What I want are more people feeling connected. And so we highlighted the problem there. And now you're seeing Rebecca, Becky, and Maria pop in as they are such a great example of like what I want for all of us. If I could just wave a magic wand and give Becky and Maria what they have and bottle it up and give it to everybody, I would. So huge, huge welcome. Becky does a lot of consulting on workplace innovation, and Maria does a lot in the workplace around empathy. She has a book that I'm going to highlight here in a moment and a new podcast coming out tomorrow, and is a speaker and a consultant with branding and with empathy. So I just want to say thank you to both of you. You met 20 years ago?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna put that
more than that. Yeah, yeah.
You're really gonna do that?
Yeah. We met right out of college.
1994.
94.
February 21st, 1994.
Yep.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it. And did you know right away that you were going to be friends, or is that something that kind of happened along the way? And your answers can be different. You can each answer.
You go first.
Sorry, I like the banner that says they met in 1994 with an exclamation point. Like, that's archaic.
We're old.
I know, totally.
If most of us could have the kind of relationships where we say we've known each other forever, that would feel amazing.
I know, totally. Yeah. With abacus, yes, exactly. So, Becky, you want to take this one?
Yes, because it's such a cute story about you, and it's why I knew we were going to be friends literally from the moment I locked eyes with you across the room. So we met because we started at Anderson Consulting together, which is now Accenture. And the way that Anderson did at the time, who knows if it's still however many years later they're doing it, was they would invite anybody that you'd get a start date, and anybody that was starting at that time, no matter what group you were going to work in. So we were in change management. You all started at the same time, and then you went through a 6-week basically orientation together. So it was 3 weeks in the office and then 3 weeks in their campus, learning everything to know about our job. Which
it was like a little pledge class. They kind of put you in no matter what department you were consulting in. Yeah.
So we get there.
I love that. I wish every organization would do that, because it was kind of like great. Putting you together in a pod where you're practicing consistency, vulnerability, and positivity. So that's a brilliant start.
It is absolutely brilliant. I mean, a lot more organizations are doing this kind of model of, boot camp to start with, to get people in and comfortable and really know themselves. But it was brilliant. We moved from college to a whole new pledge class, right? And group of friends. And it was really great. But the thing that stood out for me about Maria, and it's why I will always love her. Literally, I see her across the room, and she's doing this this motion. She's like making a motion to me and this other woman. Like, what is she doing? And she's going like this, and I'm like, what? And what she was trying to express was that the three of us were in the subgroup change management, like that
together, like we're together.
Yeah.
Which, if she had audio, totally would have made sense. Like, we're all together, because there was 25 people or something in that group. Yeah. So it was like the three of us were in the same group. Which, by the way, we are also still really good friends with that third.
With her as well. I feel like she should be here.
I know, she's a tripod. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Maria was basically like, I see you and you're mine.
I know. I was like, she's fine.
I'm like, okay, we're done.
That's awesome. But you guys actually only worked together for how long? Like at the same place?
You take it.
Well, so it's weird, because when you're in a large management consulting firm, you have this start group, but then you all get sent to different projects. And so you may never actually work with that person again. You might be in the same sort of home base.
Yeah, okay.
Luckily, Becky and I got staffed on the same project right out of orientation period. So we were commuting down to Bloomington, Illinois? I don't even remember. We were living there during the week, Monday through Friday, in a hotel for months after that. So that progressed our friendship even more. And also because we were living in Chicago, Becky's from that area, but I had never lived in Chicago before. So even in the time period that we were in orientation, we were all going out together. We were all going to happy hours and going out on the weekends and whatever. So then that just even further solidified it. So we were on that project together for quite a few months. And then that solidified our friendship. We dispersed to kind of other projects after that, but then we eventually became roommates. So like,
okay, that would help.
Yeah. So that helped for consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. But then one of you left Anderson, and so your whole time at Anderson was really only.
It's like, we left Chicago. Like, okay, Becky transferred to the San Francisco office and I transferred to the DC office. So we were literally on other coasts. Okay. And so that was probably 2.5 years in after meeting each other.
Yeah. Okay. Because one of the things that I love about your story, and so many best friends like are this way, is that work is, and I think this is hard for so many of us to actually, so many people are against workplace friendships, and yet work is the number one place we're making friends as adults. You know, so it's childhood, then it's high school, then it's college, and then as adults. And once you're out of school and grown up, work is the number one place. And yet we all have these hesitations about it. And then I think what's so interesting is that that's the number one place we're making friends. Right. It's also the number one place where we lose the most friends, because usually what happens is once we move or change jobs, we end up losing that friendship with that move or with that change in job. And so one of my favorite chapters, it was actually the first chapter I wrote when I had to sit down and start this book. I was so kind of overwhelmed getting started with it that I was like, what would be the easiest chapter for me to write? Like, where could I start? And I was like, the easiest one for me would be like how to maintain a friendship after you leave the job. And so that's the first one I wrote. And that's the chapter that features the two of you in it. Yeah. And so what's so cool is that you invested 2 years at the same company, but you benefited from 20 years of a friendship together. And I would love, Becky, Maria calls you, I interviewed her for the book, and she calls you the glue that helped make that change happen. Like, what I would love to hear from your perspective, like a little bit about what you feel like made the biggest difference to like why there's so many people you've worked with that you've been friends with over the years that you're not still that close to. What made the difference?
You know, it's interesting. I think one of the great things about being a consultant is that happens all the time. You're kind of getting a new job every 6 months, and you're working in these intense environments with people, and you're getting to know them really well, really quickly. You're probably living with them either in a hotel or even in like a complex, and then you like break up. It's like the project team
exactly
gets broken up and you all go to your next one. So there's something about consulting that I think, I'm looking at Maria, like I think that like you kind of had to learn like, okay, these two are keepers. Like I'm taking them with me on the next journey, right? Yeah. Like these two are keepers. I'm taking them with me on the next journey, and be really intentional about it.
Yeah.
And you know that you talk about that, Shasta, is like how do you be very specific and intentional? So, I mean, first and foremost, I think that I'm attracted to people that, like me, you don't have to have that, like you talk about consistency, but that doesn't mean frequency. Like you don't like, I didn't need to hear from Maria every minute. I didn't need to be like, okay, like we like she hasn't.
Yeah, we didn't like call each other every week or anything like that. But when we did reconnect, it was like we had never left. Yeah. And I think we definitely made a commitment to at least talk to each other a few times a year and to visit each other. Yeah. That was important. So then you spend like that concentrated weekend with someone again, and it all comes back. You're all caught up, and then that takes you through the next few months. But I think what Becky said was a great point, is that you have to be intentional about who you choose to keep going. And if that's who you decide, you hope it's mutual, and B, you try to figure out what does that mean. And I don't think it's funny, because Becky and I lived in so many different cities before we were together again in the Bay Area. And I don't even know, like, we didn't even really have a routine. We just sort of like, when we were able to catch up, like when we were able to talk, when we were able to visit, etc. So
I will say the consistency part was about showing up. So if I needed you, if I called you, and even if we hadn't talked for 3 months, you would pick up the phone, you would call me back, you would, whatever that was, and vice versa. And I think that is the part that, you kind of know if that person's not your person, if they're not responding in and then you just got to like deal with it, right? We've talked about this, Maria. It's like, how do I deal with this? Do I just like, no, do I continue to
right.
But I think there's been so many times when we weren't living in the same city that like, there was just like, I hadn't talked to you in 3 months, but then something happened in my life or your life. And it was like,
major life events as well. Yeah.
Or even minor though. Like,
yeah,
it's just, you were my person and it was just so easy, but you would be there. You would be there. No questions asked. No, like, oh, I have all these friends in the city I'm in now. And like, I need to, it's
exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter that we're
exactly. Yeah.
in the city. So.
Yeah. And we still collaborate on work projects now with our own separate businesses. And, Shasta, to your point, like I met my husband through work. So there is that idea of, forming close relationships and close friendships. And there was at the job where I met my husband, it was a very similar environment to Anderson, is that everybody hung out together outside of work. Like there was a core group of people that we're still friends with now. We haven't worked at that company for a long time. Someone saying comment about the unwritten rule known as never dip your pen in the company ink. Thanks. Wow. Actually, my husband and I were friends first before we advanced it, and we advanced it very prudently, but thanks for that.
Well, I think what we can say to that is there is an unwritten rule, and it's an outdated rule that needs to be like, this is where we are interacting and our social lives are happening.
Yeah, and I think
we need to speak about that rule and rewrite it. Yeah,
you do, and you can't be ridiculous about it. Like you have to be prudent. But I will say that at that larger company where I met my husband, there were several marriages that came out of that environment, and all of it was because there were groups of friends that got to know each other. It wasn't necessarily like one-on-one. So I think that there's something to that of getting to know people and having that core group, right, Becky? Like I think that same core group that we hung out with at Anderson, we're still close to that entire group.
Well, then I recruited both of you for my startup in the Bay Area. So there's that. I was like, why am I hiring my friends? That makes sense. Why wouldn't I want to do that? The one thing I was going to say, Shasta, earlier about, finding your friends at work, whatever, like you've already vetted, like here you are working for a company that hopefully you were attracted to working at that company because of
part of the culture,
passions and the culture. And this is what Marie and I talk about a lot, is like, how are you being transparent about your culture so that people that, that's the kind of place they want to work in, that they can identify with it and align with it and then work there. And so, already, like, why would we reject? Like, you've already vetted people for me. I've already got like-minded people who are excited about things I'm excited about, right? Like, it's not that we're all the same, but like, you're coming into a place that, you've already got a leg up on the friendship thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
and
for sure.
We can all think about those places where we didn't have a good work experience, and I hardly have any friends from those work experiences because those workplaces didn't align with who I was. And not that they weren't lovely people, but to your point, I think when you're bringing your best self and you're happy and you're committed to an organization and you believe, and so do all these other people, that should be something that brings you together. Mm-hmm. And not have to have this like work persona and personal persona, which Shasta, you and I have talked a lot about with my book, The Empathy Edge. Like we need to, I used to think we shouldn't blur those lines, but I think we should. Right?
Yes, that's the point. Is we have these outdated modes that act like soft skills and hard skills, or that this is what the rules are in the office and what it should be. And I'm not going to, and it's all the research. I mean, here's what it comes down to is it's one thing if we just all sit there and say, where else are we going to make friends? And where else are we actually going to have the time to build what the two of you build? I mean, you'll put in a ton of hours being roommates and in this pod and in consulting work together. And so, yeah, you've invested all this stuff. Like, why would you not get the benefit of those relationships, even if it was just to your benefit? But the fact is, the research shows it benefited Anderson to have you being friends.
That was their intent. I mean, that was honestly their intent, was to get people to form these very close relationships so that they would be very committed to the work. And to be fair, we were really young. We were like 22 coming out of college. And you had to work long hours. And they were like, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we create an environment where they're okay.
They're okay.
Where you want to be there, where you want to be there. It was brilliant of them. I mean, really,
it was kind of brilliant.
That more companies would do all of that. And I know that, so in the book, in the chapter, anybody can get this chapter if you just go to thebusinessoffriendship.com. It's a bonus chapter. Most of our friendships end because our jobs change and our consistency drops out. And the only way to keep these friendships, like if you want a friendship like Becky and Maria, the only way to keep that relationship is to add a new way of being consistent together, to add a new pattern outside of the workplace, which they did. And you guys have done weddings and babies and health traumas
everything,
and like everything together. I love when you say she's my person. Like, this isn't just like, oh, we're networked together and we met at a job. You two are like legitimate best friends and so inspirational. Before you go, you just have to tell me, Maria, give me some encouragement. So you wrote the book, The Empathy Edge, and this came out last year. Where am I supposed to hold it? There we go. And it's harnessing the value of compassion as an engine for success, a playbook for brands, leaders, and teams. So you've been bringing empathy, a soft skill into the workplace, and you have a podcast launching tomorrow on it.
Yes.
Give me encouragement. Is the workplace I'm on another soft subject. How's the road looking for us? Are we being well received?
Really good. And I hate to say that, unfortunately, the pandemic accelerated this conversation of humanizing the workplace. And the funny thing that I'm seeing is that even though we're being forced to connect via technology, people are actually feeling a little closer because they're actually using technology more to connect in a social and personal way. They're doing their virtual happy hours and their virtual this and that as an intentional way to stay connected rather than relying on bumping into somebody in the hallway. And Becky can speak to this in terms of workplace culture and the book that she has coming out this fall. But it's people are talking about this now. And it's what I love is it's no longer like this taboo outlier subject. It's actually the people that don't embrace this viewpoint that you're putting forth in the book. Shasta they're the ones that are going to be the outliers. And unfortunately, the younger generations coming into the workplace are demanding this kind of workplace now. So they're with you and they're like, yeah, I spend the bulk of my time here. I want it to count. I want it to be meaningful. I want to have connections. So we're riding that wave right now, which I'm really excited about. Becky can speak to it more from a culture and innovation point of view too.
No,
that's your book.
I think you might have just quoted my quote in your book, Maria.
I did. I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Wait. Sound good?
My book's called The Good Culture: A Leader's Guide to Creating a Workplace That Doesn't Suck. And
very good.
Out in November. So
very good.
Final touches on it right now. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Ditto to
And I quote Maria in my book too, because empathy is one of the best examples of positivity, which we all need in the workplace. So we're just all quoting each other.
I know. Great. Yes.
But it was, and I should say, I'm getting behind. I'm supposed to be dropping words for everybody. And I just got so excited. I've been forgetting to do that. But our second word is going to be empathy. So we are going to take your name, Maria, and go. But let me thank both of you for being on. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
So excited for you.
Thank you.
Yes, we're so excited for this book. It's great.
Thanks for having us.
Well, you guys are like little celebrities from my book now. I'm just like, and I give to you chapter 12, Becky and Maria.
We're taking it on the road for you when we can take it on the road. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Right. Have a good night. Have a good night.
Shasta.
Thank you.
Thank you.